What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Cinematic Reviews. I've got a really fun Marvel-themed episode for you this week. Up first, I'll be talking about all the MCU news that has been coming out this past week, and then my reaction to a couple of trailers that dropped for the upcoming Marvel projects in the next few months. And then I'll be getting into this week's featured film, Deadpool and Wolverine. So we've had a bunch of MCU news drop the last few weeks. First up, we've had the confirmed from Kevin Feige himself that Spider-Man 4 is being written currently, and he expects a script on his desk very, very soon, which is very exciting for me. As you may know, Spider-Man is my favorite, not only MCU character, but in all superheroes in general. So I'm very, very excited to see Tom Holland return for a brand new movie. There's still rumors that it will be a new trilogy that he has signed on for, but that needs to be confirmed yet from Kevin Feige. But we do know for sure that Spider-Man 4 is coming, and then we'll most likely see him in the upcoming Avengers films, whether it be both of them or one of them. That we're not sure, but we can guarantee we're going to see some Spider-Man action in the Avengers films, since he is kind of one of the main focal points now with the departing of Iron Man and Captain America and possibly Thor. I guess maybe we'll see Thor, but Spider-Man's kind of at the forefront now with the passing of Iron Man and the retiring of Steve Rogers. So, also, we got confirmed by Kevin Feige that Deadpool and Wolverine is the beginning of the next mutant era, which means the Kang Dynasty, if you want to call it, is over. We will probably not be returning to Kang at all in the near future due to the all the, I guess, not really criminal charges, but all the stuff that Jonathan Majors, who played Kang in Ant-Man, is kind of dealing with right now. So he was kind of set aside by Marvel, and now it seems that Marvel is kind of just wiping away his existence and replacing him with a new villain, which will be starring in the next Avengers film. So that is really cool. But with Deadpool and Wolverine kicking off this mutant era, that means X-Men is coming, and we're going to be getting a whole new cast of actors to kind of fall in love with and see their take on the X-Men team, which is really, really exciting for me, because I do love the X-Men. I just watched all those older X-Men films in preparation for Deadpool and Wolverine, so that was really fun to kind of take a trip down memory lane, which I grew up with all those X-Men movies throughout the years, so that was fun. Now with Avengers 5 and Avengers 6. Avengers 6, its title has not changed. That is still Avengers Secret Wars. If you are familiar with that comic book, that is a big multiverse war that happens with all these different variants of our favorite Marvel characters. So we can expect a bunch of cameos, a bunch of different versions of the characters that we love in that film. Now with Avengers 5, that was previously titled Kang Dynasty. It is now being changed to Avengers Doomsday, which means Doctor Doom is coming, and he will be the main villain of that film. With that, they've also casted Doctor Doom with none other than Robert Downey Jr., who previously played Iron Man in the Sacred Timeline. Now this, I am conflicted with. I love RDJ. I love what he did with the Iron Man character. He was the bedrock of this Marvel universe. He started it all. He, in a sense, kind of ended it as well with his passing in Endgame, because since Endgame, we've been kind of on this roller coaster of good film, bad show, good show. And now he is making his return as the very popular Doctor Doom character, who famously goes up against the Fantastic Four. Now, how they're going to do this, in my mind, the only way that they could pull this off correctly is to make him a Tony Stark variant. There is a universe in Marvel lore where Tony Stark does become Doctor Doom, So I think that would be their best way to kind of approach this, since he is Iron Man in the Sacred Timeline. They're going to have to do the multiverse thing where they use Tony Stark from a different universe that becomes Doctor Doom, and then he sort of travels through the multiverse and fights the Avengers in Avengers Doomsday. That, in my mind, is the only way that they could pull this off correctly, and I hope it is true. I am a little bit familiar with the Iron Doctor Doom character. It would be very, very interesting to see how Robert Downey kind of channels both Tony Stark and the Doctor Doom character. So I'm very conflicted, but at the same time, I'm very, very interested to see what Robert Downey Jr. does, because he is a fantastic actor. Not just in the Marvel universe, but in Hollywood in general. He is a fantastic person to watch on screen. So that's very, very exciting, but also very concerning as well. So we'll see how it turns out. I believe Avengers Doomsday is set for 2026, and then Secret Wars will be a year later in 2027. We did also get confirmation that the Russo brothers, Anthony and Joe, who previously directed Captain America Civil War, The Winter Soldier, Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, they will be returning for both Doomsday and Secret Wars, so that's very, very exciting as well. So great to have them back in the director's chair for those big, big films. And I gotta imagine they're gonna be very, very high budget, very, very hush-hush projects, just like Infinity War and Endgame were. So really cool to see them back in the Marvel universe. And the last bit of news I want to cover is the Fantastic Four title that was released, and that is being titled The Fantastic Four First Steps, which is set to hit theaters next year. The cast has already been revealed. We got Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm, Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, and then Ibn Moss-Bachrach as Ben Grimes. And then we'll also get Galactus is supposedly the main villain in this. He will be voiced by Ralph Ineson. I'm very familiar with him. I apologize for butchering his last name. But his voice, I think, is going to be perfect for Galactus, so I'm very excited for this. Looking at the cast list right now, it looks like John Malkovich is going to be in this. I'm very curious to see who he's playing. And this will be directed by WandaVision's director, Matt Shankman. So that is very awesome. They have a director who has already given us a really cool Fantastic Four project, or Marvel project already. So he definitely has the experience and the chops to pull this off. So that is all the news that I have come across so far. Of course, I will be updating you guys as they get released for the coming projects. Speaking of two projects coming up, we've got the Captain America Brave New World trailer and the Agatha All Along series trailer that I want to kind of react to. So first up, Captain America Brave New World. This is Anthony Mackie's version of Captain America, Sam Wilson. He will be returning to these events that are happening after the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series, which we got a few years ago. This looks very awesome. I was a little bit leery on this movie. I'm a huge, Chris Evans, Steve Rogers truther. I think nothing is ever going to compare to what Chris Evans was able to do with the Captain America character. But I do love Anthony Mackie. I think his Sam Wilson is a very interesting and very complicated character. But I do like him. I think what I saw in The Falcon and Winter Soldier was a good sign for what's to come with his take on Captain America. We've got Harrison Ford stepping in as Thunderbolt Ross since the tragic passing of William Hurt, who previously played the character in a couple of different Marvel projects. I love Harrison Ford. I think this was a great casting. I've seen some interviews with him already, and he's not a big comic book guy, but he is such a great and fun actor to watch. So I'm very, very excited to see him join this massive, massive universe that we're building here with Marvel. But yeah, the action looks great. The story looks very, very interesting. And yeah, I'm really, really surprised by how much I enjoyed this trailer. I know it's just a trailer, but it's a good sign that this movie probably could be successful, because that's kind of what Marvel needs right now. Their really big success right now is Deadpool and Wolverine, but what happens after that? Do we get just a bunch of, 50-50 kind of shows and movies until we get, the big Avengers movies again? Or do we, finally get a bunch of really good projects to kind of get us hyped for Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars? So yes, I'm very excited. That one will be released on February 14th next year. So we're only a few months away, which is exciting. Next, I wanted to kind of talk about the teaser trailer for the newest Marvel show, Agatha All Along. This, of course, is kind of building off of the Agatha character from the WandaVision series. I'm very intrigued with this show. I was very impressed for what I saw in the trailer. It looks to be like a really cool crime thriller, kind of like a whodunit detective type show, which I absolutely love. I love true crime. I love detective shows. So this is right up my alley. Catherine Hahn is returning as Agatha, which is very exciting. Looks like we got Audrey Plaza making her Marvel entrance into here. So that's very exciting. It's going to be a very, very, I think a very fun show to watch. Not exactly sure how many episodes we're getting of that. I would assume they're going to stick with the 6 episode range is what they typically do with these Marvel shows. So I'm very curious to see what kind of story they're going to tell with this one, and if we're going to get more Agatha in the near future. This is set to release on September 18th exclusively on Disney+. So I will be for sure doing reactions for that show along with Captain America Brave New World. So a lot of Marvel stuff coming. With the current success of Deadpool and Wolverine, I think it's safe to say that Marvel is in a good spot right now. They kind of gave us a good show finally with Deadpool and Wolverine. But we'll see what else happens as far as news and announcements come. So yeah, I'm very positive now with Marvel, which is surprising to say considering the journey that we've been on these last couple years with this multiverse era. So with that, let's get to our feature film of the week, which is Deadpool and Wolverine.
I told you, you're not welcome here. You're not welcome anywhere. Now get the fuck out of my bar.
Just give me one more drink and then I'll leave.
Hi, Peanut. I'm gonna need you to come with me right now.
Look, lady, I'm not interested.
All right, well, I'm sort of on the tick-tick, so upsy daisy. Here we go. Oh, whiskey dick of the claws. It's quite common in Wolverines over 40.
You don't want this.
Unless you want to take a deep breath through your fucking forehead, I suggest you reconsider. I'm about to lose everything that I've ever cared about.
Not my fucking problem.
Is that what you said when your world went to shit?
Come again.
This Wolverine let down his entire world.
Want to talk about what's haunting you, or should we wait for a third act flashback?
Go fuck yourself.
I don't know anything about saving worlds, but you do.
Trust me, kid, I'm no hero.
You were an X-Man. You were the X-Man. I am soaking wet right now.
silly.
This is what I'm talking about. Big slow motion action sequence. Who knows if you live or die? Let's fucking go.
Let's fucking go.
Want to do some cocaine?
Hey, cocaine is the one thing that Feige said is off limits.
What about Bolivian marching powder?
They know all the slang terms. They have a list.
Even snowboarding?
Even disco dust.
White girl interrupted?
Even force bump.
Do you want to build a snowman?
Yes. But I can't.
So Deadpool and Wolverine is currently dominating the theaters right now. It stars Ryan Reynolds returning as our favorite Merc with a Mouth, Deadpool, and then Hugh Jackman putting on the suit one more time as Wolverine. It was directed by Sean Levy, who has been a really close fan of Ryan Reynolds lately. He directed other films like The Atom Project, Free Guy. I believe he did Deadpool 2 previously, along with Ryan Reynolds. So he is a very familiar person with the franchise, and he did a fantastic job with this film, I think. Sean Levy is a director that I'm beginning to really, really appreciate with his style, his humor, his stories. It's just all around great. Ryan Reynolds had a big part in this movie as a writer, and I think he did a fantastic job as well. The story is very heartfelt, with, of course, a lot of humor built into it. But at the center of it all is a really heartfelt story about finding your place in the universe, using your talents to make the world a better place. You know, really mattering, not just as a superhero but as a person. So it was a really it is advertised built on the humor that is Deadpool, but at the very center of it is an actually really heartfelt story, and that's what really blew me away with this film. It's my most anticipated film of the year. I'll talk about it a little bit more when we get to the Marvel and X-Men rankings, but it is my new favorite Marvel movie. I still love Spider-Man No Way Home. That'll have a special place in my heart, but this one ended up dethroning it after 2 viewings in the theater. I just really, really, really love this movie. It's going to be my movie of the year when I do the episode at the end of this year with my top 5 films. I have no doubt that this is going to be number 1 for me for 2024. So to kind of give you a little bit of a plot synopsis here. So Deadpool and Wolverine is about Deadpool kind of making his jump from the Fox universe into the Disney universe. He has to save his universe from being basically annihilated by the TVA. If you remember what the TVA was, it's the time variant agency that we saw in Loki. They are now kind of pruning these universes that they see really unworthy or don't have really a place in this current state of the universe. So, of course, naturally, with Disney buying out Fox, they kind of built that into the storyline where they're just going to basically annihilate the Fox universe, and Deadpool doesn't want his friends to die or his universe to suffer from that. So he goes on this really cool journey to try to save his universe from being destroyed by the TVA, which, like I said a little bit ago, this story is just really fascinating and really heartfelt. So then he is forced to kind of recruit this Wolverine variant from a universe where he basically let down the entire world, as they put it. He was the worst X-Men. He was the worst person in that universe, and he just kind of let it all get destroyed. So that kind of begins this not so great friendship between him and Deadpool, but then as the story goes on, they become really, really good friends, and that's really awesome to see. Seeing Wolverine and Deadpool, and of course Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman in a movie together after all these years was really satisfying, and they definitely nailed the mark on that. Because we've been wanting this not just for years but for decades, for these two to have a movie together and kind of just, you know, let loose and just do it their own way, and it was honestly perfect. The only thing I think I would change was when we get to the part where Logan starts to kind of unload a bit on what exactly happened in his universe that caused him to become the worst hated person in his universe. I wish we would have actually seen, you know, flashbacks of it instead of him just kind of talking it out. Now, I understand that involves probably a lot more money than what they were able to do, or maybe they weren't able to get any of the original X-Men cast back. But I think that would have been a really cool opportunity to kind of get, you know, like James Marsden, Patrick Stewart, Halle Berry, maybe even, you know, Beast, or Jean Grey, or Rogue, or Iceman. I mean, that would have been really cool to see them come back one more time as a team. But I totally understand it. It was probably a scheduling conflict where those actors weren't able to be in this film. But that's really the only thing I think as far as like negatives or missed opportunities, I think. Otherwise, this movie, you know, I've got no complaints on it. My favorite part is probably that opening credit sequence where we see Deadpool fighting the TVA agents while also dancing to NSYNC's Bye Bye Bye. Now, every time I hear that song, honestly, I don't even think of the music video with NSYNC anymore. It's just that opening credit sequence with Deadpool dancing and killing all these TVA agents. That's the music video for Bye 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 for me now. And I think that's such a really interesting, and I never would have guessed that walking out of this movie that this would change how I listened to NSYNC's Bye Bye Bye, which was a huge song when I was growing up in the 90s. So that was something I was not expecting. Now, I did a little bit of research, and it has been coming on social media. That wasn't Ryan Reynolds, unfortunately, doing that dance. It was some other person who they have labeled as Dancepool. I have the cast list open up. I believe his name is Paul something. Let's see if I can find it here. This is a large, and I'm going to deep dive into this cast list in a second here. Once I find who Dancepool is. Oh, here he is. Nicholas Pauly, or Nick Pauly, as he's called. He has been labeled as Dancepool. He is the one that actually did the dance sequence in that opening credit. So that's really, really cool. I'm sure Ryan Reynolds would have been able to pull it off, but to get an actual professional dancer who practiced for that is really, really cool. I mean, you can't really tell the difference. They really did find a person that had the same, you know, body type and all that in the Deadpool suit. So I think it worked just fine having somebody else do it. That way they could absolutely nail it. And they did. It was such a fun sequence, and it's something I was not ever expecting to happen in a Deadpool and Wolverine movie. So jumping back to that cast list, this was just a cameo fest. We've had all sorts of different characters return from previous Marvel films. We had Chris Evans, who has been playing Captain America recently in the Disney Marvel Universe. But he is actually back as none other than Human Torch from the two Fox versions of Fantastic Four. So that was really cool. We also had Wesley Snipes returning as Blade, which was hilarious because for some reason Disney can't seem to get that Blade movie off the ground. I think Mahershala Ali would be a fantastic Blade actor. But they just, for whatever reasons, they just can't seem to keep a director or keep any writers on there. So that has been basically it's been in purgatory hell for like 10, 12 years. So I don't know if that movie's ever going to be made. So for right now, Wesley Snipes is the only Blade actor, just like Hugh Jackman is the only Wolverine actor. So it was really cool to get those two in not just the same movie, but in the same scenes together, because they were in scenes together, and so that was really cool. We also get Jennifer Garner back as Elektra from the Daredevil movie, as well as the Electric movie that she did with Ben Affleck. I did like that comment about, Ben Affleck's Daredevil. I think that was really cool to kind of, sum up what happened there in like one line where Deadpool kind of apologizes for, Ben Affleck and it not working out, and she's totally fine with it because, as you may know, they have been divorced for quite some years. So yeah, that was really cool. Then another one that was actually really, really cool, and not very many people knew about or even were aware of why this was in there. I actually had to explain this to my brother because he had no idea that this was even a thing. So Channing Tatum finally was able to throw on the Gambit suit. And it was hilarious. He was basically the punching bag once he was on screen. And it was solely because of that not so great accent going. He was doing this really outrageous French accent, which it is somewhat, comic accurate, where Gambit does have an accent to him. But they just really went for it. One of my favorite lines in the movie was when Deadpool was making fun of his accent, and he was asking if his dialect coach was the Minions, which completely annihilated the audience that I was in when I watched this film last weekend. It was such a great line, and he was, like I said, he was just a giant punching bag once he started opening up his mouth with that accent. But that was really cool to see him finally, get his wish. From my understanding, he is a huge Gambit fan, and he fought tooth and nail to try to get that film made, but they ended up canceling that one. Then we get Daphne Keane coming back as Laura / X-23 from Logan. She was fantastic to see. I love her. I honestly hope they kind of bring her back as maybe the X-23 and the Sacred Timeline. I think that would be really, really cool because she's fantastic. I love seeing her, especially as the Laura character. Then we get Tyler Mane, who you probably remember from the original X-Men film back from, I think 2000 that one came out. So he's back as Sabretooth, and that was really cool to get him and Hugh Jackman back on screen together to fight one another. Deadpool says in the film, audiences have waiting 20 years for this fight, so you need to make it perfect. And that was a really cool scene to see them kind of back together. Then we have Aaron Stanford as Pyro. To me, it took me a few seconds to kind of recognize him. He looked a lot different from what I remember him from X-Men 2 and X-Men 3, The Last Stand. But he returns as Pyro. He is one of the kind of minions to the antagonists, who I'll talk about in a second. Then we have Blake Lively as Ladypool, which was pretty obvious when that cameo was kind of teased in one of the trailers. I know a lot of people thought it was Taylor Swift, but there was no way that was Taylor Swift. That had to be none other than Blake Lively, who is, of course, the real-life wife to Ryan Reynolds. So that was really cool to get her in there. And then Matthew McConaughey, who had to look up after seeing the movie. He plays the cowboy pool in that big, sequence at the end where Prime Deadpool, as he calls himself, and Wolverine have to fight off 100 Deadpools in order to destroy the Time Ripper that was going to destroy his universe. So that was cool to get him in there. Also in that one, there was a lot of them. Like Nathan Fillion was the head pool that was floating around. Tom Holland's brother, he was one of the Deadpool variants in there. And funny story there, and I researched this afterwards, Ryan Reynolds had no idea that Tom Holland's brother was in there until they were done filming that scene, which I find it hilarious that they kind of kept that from him because Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds have publicly stated that they would love to do a movie with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. So I thought that was hilarious how they kind of snuck Tom Holland's brother onto screen. Then we also had one of the bigger cameos that I had no idea was going to happen, and that was Henry Cavill as the Calverine, as they're calling him. Henry Cavill, of course, played Superman in the DCU, and now he returns as a Wolverine variant which was really, really awesome. He even does the, the arm reload thing that he does in Mission Impossible Fallout. But yeah, it was great to see him. He actually looks really, really good. If I were to pick any other actor to play Wolverine, like for the near future, if Hugh Jackman does decide to, hang up the claws actually for good, after this film, I think Henry Cavill would be the perfect guy to kind of fill him in. He would be like he's much, much larger than Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman, did build some muscle for this movie, but he has, over the years, he has definitely kind of went with more of I want to say more fit tone body of Wolverine, where Cavill seems to be just going for the sheer muscle mass of the upper body, and I think that would really be a cool kind of different take on the character if they do decide to go with him. I think that would be really, really cool. And then the other cameo I want to talk about is Jon Favreau returning as our favorite chauffeur, Happy Hogan. That scene with him and Wade Wilson when he's trying to join the Avengers was really, really fun. I really do hope they do continue to bring Happy Hogan into a lot of these movies, and having him interact with Wade Wilson I thought was perfect. Just a really, really fun scene to have him back. As well as all these cameos, we do have the original cast back. We have Blind Al, Dopinder, Vanessa. Unfortunately, with Vanessa, they have broken up for most of this film, and then at the very end, we kind of see them kind of rekindle their romance a bit. But for the majority of this movie, Wade and Vanessa are broken up, and so that kind of like lights a fire under his ass to kind of, become something in this universe and do something bigger than himself. We also get Negasonic Teenage Warhead, and then her girlfriend Yukio back. That was really fun. We also get Colossus. He's kind of in the background. I think he has maybe one or two different lines, but he's in there. We also get Peter. Peter ends up becoming a huge character because it gets revealed at the end of that Deadpool fight that every Deadpool has a Peter, and he's like this special character to the Deadpool in that universe. So that's really, really cool. Could be something for the future and maybe in some, later sequels of Deadpool. So that's cool. And then Shatterstar, for some reason, was in here. If you remember, he was the alien guy from Deadpool 2 that joined X-Force. I thought that was a really random one. If I remember right, he pretty much died in the second one, along with most of the other X-Force. So when Deadpool went back in time to save Peter, he must have saved Shatterstar or got a different variant. I don't know. I thought that was a really weird and random person to put into the group. But hey, it works. It's cool to see him back, I guess. What else? Oh, I wanted to talk about the villain of the film, which kind of ties in to my negatives that I said. Oh yeah, that's right. Buck was in here. He had no speaking lines, which was funny. Trying to find the villain here. She was an okay villain. I wasn't like blown away by her. Her story is that she is the twin of Charles Xavier, aka Professor X in the X-Men Universe. When she was basically a baby, she kind of explains that she was taken by the TVA because they kind of looked to the future and saw that she would be a massive, massive headache to them. So they just kind of puned her and banished her to the void. So that's kind of her backstory and why she is. Here she is. Emma Corrin plays Cassandra Nova, who is the twin sister to Charles Xavier of the X-Men. She was okay. I don't think she was kind of a generic villain, along with Matthew. I'm going to butcher his last name, but he's the one. It's Tom from Succession, if you've seen that show. Matthew McFadden. He plays Mr. Paradox, who is also the other villain of the story, and I'll get to him in a second. But back to Cassandra Nova. She, like I said, she is a pretty generic villain in this one. Definitely one of the weaker parts in this film. I know she kind of gets, missed because of all these cameos and the humor and the fact that we're watching Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman on screen together finally. She kind of gets lost in there. But part of it is because I think she had a much weaker part. She was the villain, but she wasn't quite the villain, because we had also Mr. Paradox from the TVA who kind of kickstarts this whole thing, and then eventually we get introduced to Cassandra Nova. But I just think she could have been written a little bit better. Maybe something we would, remember more of her. She would have made a bigger impact as a villain. But she did a decent job for what they were going for. And then Mr. Paradox, as I mentioned, he is part of the TVA. His whole kind of shtick is doing what he thinks is necessary and what the TVA is afraid to do, which is just basically annihilate any universes that serve zero purpose to the rest of the multiverse. So he's kind of picking and choosing the universes that he sees potential in, and then instead of, maybe trying to alter them, he's just, or like naturally dying, he's just kind of, immediately, let's just kind of snap our fingers and just annihilate them, without any pain, instead of watching these universes kind of slowly die over the next couple thousand years. So, again, pretty generic villain. When you walk out of this movie, you definitely aren't going to be like, oh my god, they were such great villains. You're going to probably say things like, oh, it was pretty generic, or they pretty much served their purpose, and that was it. They were in and out. Most of what you're going to remember from this movie is going to be the cameos. It's going to be the humor. It's going to be the music. The action was really fun. That fight scene between Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds when they first entered the Void was really, really cool, with Deadpool shooting his guns first and then pulling out his swords once he runs out of ammo and just stabbing the crap at each other. The best one, I think, is probably when they're in the Honda Odyssey and they're just going to town on each other. They're just slicing each other up. They're throwing each other out and into the van. That was a really, really fun scene. But yeah, the action's great. The music, fantastic. Like I mentioned earlier, the NSYNC opening to the movie was just perfect. There was one song, I wonder if I can find it here, where it's been stuck in my head ever since I watched this movie. Where is it? It's the song that's playing, Like a Prayer by Madonna. That one is probably my favorite song in the whole soundtrack. That plays when Deadpool and Wolverine must go down into that subway area and destroy the Time Ripper device by sacrificing themselves, which was really, really cool. That was a cool moment, kind of seeing Hugh Jackman's variant become the X-Men that we know and love. And then, of course, Deadpool finally putting his needs aside and just doing something for the greater good, something bigger than himself. I think that was a very, very powerful scene to watch at the end. And it was very reminiscent of that scene in the first Guardians movie where the Guardians finally come together and they sacrifice themselves to kind of take down Ronan with the Power Stone. It was very reminiscent of that. I wouldn't be surprised if they come out later on and say, yeah, we kind of were inspired by that scene from Guardians of the Galaxy. And I would love to ask, Sean Levy or Ryan Reynolds, if I ever do get the chance, to kind of ask them, like, were you guys ever inspired by that Guardians scene where they kind of come together as a team? Because it was very, very reminiscent of that. I thought that was very, very cool. And then the last thing I want to touch on is some of my favorite quotes in here, because there is a lot of them. I know right off the bat we get this one's from Deadpool. There are 206 bones in the human body, 207 if I'm watching Gossip Girl. That was really funny. Deadpool saying Paul Rudd finally aged when they go to the Void, and you see that giant Ant-Man body laying there that ends up being Cassandra Nova's base when that mask finally opens up and we see that Ant-Man died. Ryan Reynolds breaking that fourth wall and finally aged, saying that Paul Rudd aged, which is hilarious. Another one, welcome to the MCU. You're joining at a bit of a low point. That was another great fourth wall break. This one here, this one was hilarious. So we meet Nice Pool, which is that one. That whole subplot with Nice Pool is hilarious with Dogpool. So apparently, this when we get to the end, Nice Pool breaks the fourth wall and just goes the proposal, which stars Ryan Reynolds and Sandra Bullock. And then Deadpool kind of screams out, "What the fuck is that, bitch? Is that what you think I do?" Kind of like making fun of him, how he turns his head to the camera, says something random, and he's breaking the fourth wall. I thought that was pretty funny. Deadpool, get my country's name out of your fucking mouth and my sword. One of my other favorite ones, where Deadpool is at the TVA, he gets his suit, which another great scene where he gets his brand new suit from Disney, and we have that pedophile Taylor who's just touching his butt every 2 seconds. But he comes out and he kind of grabs the camera to the side and he's like, "Suck it, Fox, I'm going to Disneyland," and he headsbutt the camera. I thought that was pretty hilarious. I mentioned who is your acting coach, the Minions. That was Deadpool talking to Gambit. I thought that was hilarious. But yeah, there's so many good lines in here. Blade, there's only one Blade, only ever going to be one Blade, kind of jabbing at Mahershala Ali. Is never going to become Blade. But yeah, I could talk about this for hours. There's so many good quotes in here, and I'm sure I'm missing some of my highlight ones, but this was a fantastic movie. Like I said, this is my movie of the year, my favorite Marvel movie now. I just really, really love what Sean Levy was able to accomplish with this, with all the cameos and the heartfelt story. Kind of weak on the villain front, like I said, but a movie like this, we don't really need to be blown away by the villain. We're basically here to watch Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds kind of do their thing with these two characters that we have loved over the last, couple decades. But the villains serve their purpose, and that's about it. But yeah, it's just, I really, really love this movie. Can't wait to watch it. Can't wait to own it, and just kind of rewatch it over and over again. I was just completely blown away by this movie. I knew I was gonna love this movie, going into it, but I never thought that this would become my favorite movie of Marvel, hands down. Like it's just fantastic, and it's a really, really tight, condensed movie. It's only 2 hours and 7-8 minutes. It's really, 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 really condensed. They really didn't overstay their welcome. I mean, I would have loved to have, and I don't know, maybe we'll get a director's cut where we're gonna get a 3-hour cut of Deadpool and Wolverine, but I think it was perfect. It was condensed. It was you're kind of in and out. You're here to have a lot of fun, and watch these two very, very iconic characters at first fight each other and then eventually work with one another. It's just a really fantastic. It's my favorite Ryan Reynolds. His Deadpool character is my favorite that he's ever done. Wolverine, of course, is my favorite character that Hugh Jackman has ever done in all his movies. But this, I think, is the best version of these two characters as well. I know Logan is high up there on my list. Hugh Jackman was fantastic. He probably could have won an Oscar for that one. But I think what he does in this film is just phenomenal. So I think this is Hugh Jackman at his best, as far as acting and just kind of embodying this very, very iconic character. The same goes with Ryan Reynolds. He's at the tippy top of his power. Like, this is the best version of Deadpool that we've gotten so far, and I'm super, super excited to see more Deadpool enter the MCU. I don't know if we're going to get more Hugh Jackman. I know they have that really fun line in here where Ryan Reynolds is kind of sticking fun of him, where Disney's going to make Hugh Jackman play Wolverine until he's 90, which they could. I mean, Hugh Jackman loves the character. He wouldn't have played him this long if he didn't love the character. But I don't know if we're gonna get more Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. I gotta imagine that Disney is gonna want to go in a slightly different direction and get a younger Wolverine so that they can kind of do their own take on it for the next 10, 15 years. But I do think we're gonna get a lot more Deadpool. He may end up becoming, kind of the Happy Hogan that we got in previous films, where he'll just pop up as kind of universe building and kind of, say one or two lines, break the fourth wall, and then be kind of out. I'm sure we're going to get a Deadpool 4. He'll probably be in one, if not both, Avengers movies coming up. But I'm super, super excited to have Deadpool finally in the MCU. It's got the similar feeling that I got when Spider-Man was finally introduced to the MCU and Captain America: Civil War. I'm super pumped for this film. I think as far as box office goes, it's dominating the R rating film market. It looks like it had about a budget of $200 million. But opening weekend, they basically made that money back and a little bit more. So far, it looks like worldwide, they've got about $658 million already earned. This could easily break $1 billion by the time it's done. It may even, get to that 1.2, 1.3 billion mark. That might be a little too high for it, considering it is an R-rated movie, but I could easily, we're only on week, I think, 2 now, and it's already, made over 650 million. So it's easily going to break that billion mark by the time it's done in the box office, which is super exciting. Maybe this will help. I'm hoping this helps Disney kind of get more confident in doing more R-rated movies, like Blade, or when they finally, if they do decide to do a Venom movie after Tom Hardy's had his run with it. There's other ones like maybe Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider might be a little tough. They may settle for PG-13 on that one just to kind of get a more broad audience. But I think this is a very, very optimistic thing to expect from Disney now with R ratings. They got the Alien Romulus movie coming out next weekend, or 2 weekends from now, which is exciting. Yep, Alien is a part of the Disney universe now, so they will be creating that one. And yeah, I think it's safe to say that the R-rated movie is going to be no stranger to Disney's platform, especially Marvel. So awesome. Now, if you haven't seen Deadpool and Wolverine, I pretty much spoiled a lot of the really fun stuff. Of course, I would not recommend you listen to this episode, and I'll put a little disclaimer at the beginning of this episode to just kind of make people aware that there is giant spoilers in this review. But yeah, definitely, if you've seen Deadpool already, go out and see it again. Like I said, I've seen it twice already. I'm hoping to see it a third time before it leaves theaters, just because it is the perfect movie to see on the biggest screen with the biggest sound possible. So definitely go out and see Deadpool Wolverine again and support this film. It's really, really awesome. So to end this week's episode, let's jump over to the rankings. All right, let me pull up my rankings here. I'm going to start with my Deadpool rankings. So there's 3 Deadpool films so far being made. Number 1, I got Deadpool and Wolverine, of course. And number 2, I got the first Deadpool. And then number 3, Deadpool 2. Slightly less on Deadpool 2. I think Deadpool 1 is fantastic. Really, really fun movie. Deadpool 2 was really great. It's far inferior to the first Deadpool. But Deadpool and Wolverine, just like I keep saying, blew me out of the water. So that's my favorite Deadpool movie right now. Jumping over to the X-Men movies. Now I know this movie is still, is a Disney MCU movie, but I'm sort of, with how I do my rankings, I'm just kind of grouping all these universes together because they are still, this one still technically is in the Fox universe and is an X-Men character, full of X-Men characters. So going forward, I'll be ranking Deadpool separately. I'll be ranking, the X-Men characters together, and then the MCU rankings will be another totally different list. So I'll have multiple lists going on. I rank stuff all the time, so I've got like almost 100 ranking lists so far. So that's kind of how my brain works when it comes to doing all my rankings. So starting off, I'm gonna go from the bottom up this time. So at the very bottom, I've got X-Men Origins Wolverine. That film has been dragged through the mud over and over and over again. It's still not great, even though Hugh Jackman's awesome as Wolverine no matter what he does. Number 12, I've got X-Men The Last Stand. I actually rewatched this one kind of to get really ready for some of these cameos that were reportedly going to be in the film. So that was really fun to kind of rewatch that one. Still not great. Hugh Jackman's fantastic. Halle Berry is pretty good as Storm. Patrick Stewart, of course, returns as Charles. But I think the real problem I have with this one and why it's at the bottom is just the writing. The story isn't great. It's about erasing the mutants and giving them this vaccine that'll turn them into human. It wasn't a great story. Kind of in the same vein, we have number 11, X-Men Dark Phoenix. Again, I love the cast of this movie. This is one of the newer films. I think this was the last one they did before Disney bought out Fox. But yeah, the story's not great. This was kind of another retelling of Jean Grey becoming the Dark Phoenix, like we saw in X2. And it just dropped the ball real hard. It didn't work for me. There's some great action scenes in there. And the cast, of course, is great. You got Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique, James McAvoy's Charles, Michael Fassbender's Magneto, which is probably, I think, is the best character in that newer section of the X-Men universe. But still not a great film. Number 10, I have the original X-Men, just because, we've had so many other great movies come out since then. Again, when we rewatched that one, the story's pretty bland. The costumes, I was never really a fan of the black costumes. I read an article recently where, I didn't know this until I read this article a couple weeks ago. Apparently they picked those black suits in the original X-Men trilogy because of The Matrix, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, The Matrix just changed films forever when when it came out, and this came out a year after The Matrix, so of course that article makes sense when they kind of were influenced by The Matrix and the costumes there. But my favorite of that original trilogy of X-Men movies is X2, X-Men United. That's sitting there at number 9. I like the story more. I like the characters more in there. We get Nightcrawler. We get Stryker. I just think overall it was the better of those original 3. So that's sitting there at number 9. Number 8, we have X-Men Apocalypse, which is part of the, like I said, the I don't know if this one was, I know First Class was a prequel. Days of Future Past was a prequel as well. I need to rewatch this. Let me see here. X-Men Apocalypse takes place in the 1980s, so it is a prequel to the original 3. This one, again, like Dark Phoenix, wasn't great, just because of the story, and I think they didn't do the greatest job with Apocalypse in this one. He was played by I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on his name. Where is he? Oscar Isaac. He played Apocalypse in there. I think I wasn't sold on the design of it. I think the script wasn't as great as it could have been. But it still has a lot of fun action sequences, and of course the cast with McAvoy, Fassbender, Lawrence, Nicholas Hoult, who I'm not a huge fan of. He's actually plays a pretty decent beast in there. Sophie Turner plays Jean Grey in that one. So it is a pretty fun cast and some fun actions. It's just the story just was very, very poorly written. I think it could have been a lot better. And number 7 is the Wolverine, which I do love. Like the only reason why it's at number 7 is because we have so many other great X-Men movies come after it. But the Wolverine's actually a really good film. It's probably the one I've seen the least out of all these, and it's a shame because it is a really good Wolverine story. I need to rewatch that one for sure. But yeah, this is one where it takes place mostly in Japan. It happens a few years after the events of X-Men: The Last Stand. So it's kind of Wolverine kind of struggling and with the death of Jean Grey and trying to move on with his life and kind of finding himself as Wolverine. And he kind of heads to Japan and gets sucked into this turf war in Japan, and he ends up, fighting a friend of his that he ended up saving back in the day. So it's a pretty good story. A lot of great actions in there. Yeah, it's a really, really fun movie. At number 6, I got X-Men First Class. This was the first of the prequels that they did, taking place in the 1960s, kind of, showing how Charles Xavier and Magneto kind of formed the X-Men, and then how Magneto kind of broke off and kind of did his own thing from the X-Men. So it's a really good movie. Story-wise, really good. We get, a Hugh Jackman cameo in there, of course, which is probably one of the best cameos I've ever seen, where they go to that bar and, Charles is like, yeah, we're starting a team. We call it the X-Men. And Hugh Jackman basically just says, go fuck yourselves. And declines, joining the X-Men. So really, really good film. Number 5, X-Men Days of Futures Past, which is kind of their time travel movie. This is really good. This is, out of like all the Marvel movies ever made, this is one of my favorites for sure. It's easily like my top 10 Marvel of all time. Partially because if you're familiar with the podcast, I love time travel. It's my favorite kind of subject to tackle in films. So this was basically made for me. It's Wolverine getting sent back in time to kind of fix things and prevent this huge war to happen in the future between the mutants and the Sentinels. It's really, really well written. Just a fascinating movie. If you haven't seen this for whatever reason, definitely recommend it. It's one of the best X-Men movies. Actually, let me look at my rankings here. Yeah, it's the best X-Men movie for sure, because I wouldn't really count, because Deadpool isn't a part of it, and then up more is Logan, and I guess that's more of a Wolverine movie. So as far as like X-Men movies, Days of Future Past is for sure the best X-Men movie they've made so far, and I hope Disney kind of looks at that one and kind of goes, oh, we've seen what worked with Days of Future Past. Let's kind of like use that as inspiration and make a really, really fun X-Men movie. So definitely give that one a watch if you haven't. Number 4, you got Deadpool 2, because I think Deadpool is the best character, probably my favorite character in the X-Men universe, next to Wolverine, but I just love the Deadpool movie so much. Number 3, of course, Deadpool 1. 2 is the big one itself, Logan, which was fantastic. I mean, Hugh Jackman could have won an Oscar for this one. This is about Logan kind of at the end of his ropes. He's not healing as quickly. He's got to protect Laura, a.k.a. X-23, who ends up being his daughter. Just a really, really incredible story. and really awesome Wolverine movie. This is where they finally got to do Wolverine and rated R for the first time, and so that kind of gave us a glimpse of what Deadpool and Wolverine was going to be, and just it's awesome. The violence, the action, the story. It's a perfect film. I just absolutely love Logan. If you haven't seen Logan yet, definitely watch that one. It's fantastic. And then, of course, with no surprise, at number 1 is Deadpool and Wolverine at the top of my X-Men rankings. So now we're going to get to the big one, the MCU rankings, and I'm just going to plow right through these. I think there's like 40-some projects here, 46. So I'm going to speed through this one. I'm going to post all these rankings on all the social media. My main social media page is the X and Facebook, but I also post these on Instagram as well. So I'm just going to plow right through these, and that'll be it for today. So starting at number 1, Deadpool and Wolverine, of course. 2, Spider-Man No Way Home. 3, Avengers Infinity War. 4, Avengers Endgame. 5, Spider-Man Homecoming. 6, Captain America The Winter Soldier. 7, Captain America Civil War. 8, Spider-Man Far From Home. 9, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. 10, Guardians of the Galaxy. Thor Ragnarok. 12, Hawkeye. 13, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. 14, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, which is probably a little controversial, but I do like that movie. 15, Ant-Man and the Wasp. 16, the first Ant-Man. 17, WandaVision. 18, Black Panther. 19, Iron Man, which is very controversial, but we've just had so many awesome movies since Iron Man 1 that it just naturally just falls down the list. Still love it. 20, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. 21, The Avengers. 22, Werewolf by Night, which was the holiday special. 23, Thor, Love and Thunder. 24, The Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. 25, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. 26, Loki Season 1. 27, Loki Season 2. I like Season 1 slightly more than Season 2. 28, Doctor Strange. 29, Avengers Age of Ultron. 30, Black Widow. 31, Iron Man 3. 32, Iron Man 2. 33, Captain America, The First Avenger. Now we're kind of getting to the bottom of the list here. 34, She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. 35, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. 36, Moon Knight. 37, Miss Marvel. 38, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I'm curious to see how that holds up with the new Captain America movie coming out. 39, The Incredible Hulk. 40, Captain Marvel. 41, Thor, The Dark World. 42, Thor. 43, Echo. 44, Secret Invasion. 45, The Marvels. 46, Eternals. Now, if you probably noticed, I didn't have the animated multiverse show What If in here. I don't consider that part of this whole universe thing. I see that as an offshoot of the MCU. I do have that one underneath my MCU TV rankings, though, which I will post on the social media as well. I can run through that one real quick here. Number 1, Hawkeye. Number 2, WandaVision. 3 is Loki Season 1. 4, Loki Season 2. 5, She-Hulk. 6, Moon Knight. 7, Miss Marvel. Then I have Season 1 of What If at number 8. 9, The Falcon and Winter Soldier. And then at 10 is Secret Invasion. I need to finish watching Season 2 of What If. So this ranking isn't complete. But once I think I'm about halfway through that one. Once I finish that, I will add that to the rankings as well. And I will up these as much as possible and throw out updated lists on the social medias as well. Well, that's going to do it for this week's Marvel-themed episode. Next time, I am going to do a football-themed episode with The Replacements, starring Keanu Reeves as the feature film of the week. That episode will be dropping not this coming week, but the week after, because I will be on vacation in Arizona. But that will be dropping out in the coming weeks. So get ready for a football-themed episode. coming from Cinematic Reviews. Later, everyone.